This is full screen boss fight.
Hi. So, obviously Bayonetta, when you think of Bayonetta as a character, you think of the iconic design of Bayonetta, the personality, the British schoolmarm demeanor, which actually lends to the attractiveness, and just the librarian fetishist aspects of her character, which are also something that I'm quite into. But apparently Sega did not want Bayonetta to have glasses, which is odd considering, but let's get more into that. This is from Go Nintendo. Bayonetta's publisher didn't want the character to wear glasses, but Platinum refused to remove them. They couldn't see the vision. I see what you did there, Rami. There are a lot of iconic moments to Bayonetta as a character: her over-the-top personality, incredible hair, and of course her iconic glasses. Bayonetta's glasses are such part of the character that they've actually been released as a set of frames in real life. That's why it makes it so crazy to learn that the spectacles were a point of contention during development. Former Platinum developer, Bayonetta creator Hideki Kamiya took to social media to share a quick story about Bayonetta, revealing that someone on the publishing side of the game really didn't want the witch to sport her now renowned glasses. So obviously this is a Sega move. Sega has been a big believer of self-sabotage for quite some time now, even back in the days when Sega of America and Sega of Japan were at war with each other. And they hired on Bernie Stolar, the man who almost made Castlevania and Symphony of the Night happen, and decided that a 3D console shouldn't have 2D games, or so the legend says. Sega is notorious for doing that whole gun twirl thing that Revival Ocelot and RoboCop does, but shoots himself in the head by accident. I wonder if YouTube's gonna have a problem with that, because that's graphic content. When designing Bayonetta, there was a request from the client side to take off the glasses, and it's a fact that I kept rejecting that. Separately from that, it's also a fact that Shimomura-san, who directed the movie scenes for us, said the famous line, "The glasses are just like Bayonetta's underwear, so absolutely do not take them off." Shimomura-san said that? Ooh, that's dope. I like that. Based on who published the original Bayonetta, it seems that someone at Sega has a real issue with Bayonetta sporting spectacles. You have to wonder why they were so against the idea of Bayonetta wearing glasses, but thankfully Platinum stuck to their guns and released both versions of Bayonetta that they wanted the world to see. So in response to the exchange, Mari Shimazaki is the designer of Bayonetta, and she also worked on a lot of the Soul Calibur stuff. Now there's a picture of Taki dressed up as Soul Calibur woman, a superhero design that has like super high midriff cut that's under boob. And that's been the contention of a lot of feminists. a lot of women that don't like themselves or other women got really in their feelings about that. Mari Shimazaki shared a story of how the iconic design came to be. Apparently, Kamiya was so fixated on giving Bayonetta a pair of spectacles that Shimazaki always had a glasses version of every design proposal prepared for him. During the development of Bayonetta 1, when I was drawing up rough sketches of the character design, Kamiya appeared behind me out of nowhere and whispered, "Give her glasses." That is so on par. I would expect Kamiya to do something like that. And when you see Kamiya actually, when he's like looking at the Bayonetta cosplayers, and he posted a couple of them, and he's like, "Marry me," like that. You could tell that is his thing, and that's the type of woman he would want in his life. I can't even be mad at him for that. I'm a big fan of women in glasses. I'm a big fan of librarians, but that's a little too personal to be putting out there. But hey, I am what I am, and that's really all that I am. And that's how everything started. Later, when I was sketching rough designs for Bayonetta, he always come to me saying, "Why don't you give her glasses?" So it became a habit for me to always have glasses and a glasses layer ready in my designs. While the process of finalizing designs was something of a bumpy ride, I always had the glasses layer on standby. She commented on her X account. This is wonderful, actually. While they're still easily considered Bayonetta's most iconic feature, the glasses were never meant to be just for show. In Bayonetta, the official guide for future press, Kamiya mentioned that the heroine wears her glasses as a kind of mask to protect herself from the outside world as her tragic past chases her. Following up on the story, Kamiya explains that he had originally planned on writing more detailed lore behind why Bayonetta never takes her glasses off in the first place. Maybe it's due to trauma. Maybe it's some other reason behind it. I really wanted to write an episode digging deeper into why she wears the glasses. Whatever the case, in all of the Bayonetta titles I created, the only man who ever got to see Bayonetta Cereza's face bare was Luca, he said, which is fair because Luca is the father of her child in one of the universes in the Bayonetta 3 storyline. That also had a bunch of people in an uproar because according to a certain group of people, probably the aforementioned people that I was talking about that were mad at sexy women, they didn't necessarily like the idea of Bayonetta being in a heterosexual relationship and actually bearing children. They thought that her and Jean were going to be a thing, even though her and Jean are pretty much like sisters. But yeah, that's how that is. Now, the story doesn't end here, by the way, because there is an actual Twitter thread that popped up here. And I don't know how valid this is or how true this is, but if this is actually true, it's pretty awesome. So JP Kellums says they not only didn't want her to wear glasses, SEGA of America commissioned some designs from a US concept artist and had sent them to us unsolicited and basically said, aren't these better? They were not better. So these are the designs for Bayonetta. Now, notice they have glasses on, and a lot of them look like, I don't know why the top 3 kind of remind me of Golden Axe Beast Rider, which actually, it makes sense. It might have been the same artist that worked on the designs for Golden Axe Beast Rider, because I see a lot of energy there. They're not bad pieces, mind you. This isn't bad art. I don't really consider this to be terrible art in the slightest, but they just look very Western. They don't look like Mara Shimizaki's designs. Out of all the designs here that actually look like they'd be the closest to what Bayonetta would represent, it would be that bottom middle one right there with the long hair and the swept bangs and just that whole outfit. But still, it has that Western look to it. It looks like these all look like side characters from a Western game, with the exception of that bottom middle one. Now, if you were to make, say, some Western gunslinging game that was kind of like that, or if a Western take on Bayonetta ever came out, a la DMC Devil May Cry, I would imagine this would probably be what their version of Bayonetta would look like. And don't be surprised if you probably see a DMC Devil May Cry inspired Bayonetta game pop out from Platinum in a post Kamiya world. I've played DMC Devil May Cry. I really thought it was 4 edgy 5 me in terms of design, which is a variation of 2 edgy 4 me. I wasn't feeling it. And then the dialogue was just like pure cringe. The designs, the Ninja Theory's whole thing, where they basically tried to say that, Dante's just a gay cowboy. And I know they said that for promotional reasons, but get the fuck out of here with that. Dante's corniness is probably part of what makes him the most relatable and human character out of the entire Devil May Cry cast. The goofiness, the silly demeanor, the grabbing his crotch and tipping his hat forward and while dancing around with Dr. Faust's hat. That was charming. There's that fine line between cornball and charming that exists, and he straddles that line like a fucking bucking bronco rider. So according to JP Kellums, he says these images are available online because the concept artist SOA commissioned posted them several years ago. So okay, this might actually be accurate. Okay, sure, but some of these designs go fucking hard. I mean, if you like the era of chonky design, I get it, but none of them scream sexy Lith Witch. Which I agree, and I think somebody else agrees with me on this design here. I like this one, but I do think it wouldn't have aged nearly as well as the Bayonetta we got. People would definitely see this as a pretty generic late 2000s era design. Somebody said that this character reminds them of Kat from Gravity Rush. I kind of see it. This is probably the closest thing you're going to get to a Bayonetta design, honestly. Imagine playing jazz over these, complete misunderstanding of tonal intention. You need to replace the soundtrack with Godsmack. Stand alone. Not gonna lie, I like this one, but yeah, I didn't think any of them were better than the final design. That's where I'm at. This is the closest you're gonna get to the final design, but it pales in comparison to what Mara Shimazaki actually designed. And I think that's the difference. That is what makes Bayonetta's final design that much more appealing. And it's very timeless. This is kind of, again, like somebody said, it was wrapped up in the early aughts design philosophy. It still suffers from that that early aughts edginess, whereas Bayonetta that we know and love currently has that timeless design to it. You want something that's going to last the test of time. Years from now, days from now, weeks from now, you can look at this design and say, hey, this is still a fresh design. It's still giving me something. And I think that's the most important thing. The reason why the Street Fighter designs, especially for Street Fighter, the Street Fighter series designs, they look good no matter what time period they exist in. And Street Fighter's been around for like, what, 35 years, close to. The designs work because they're timeless. They're not locked into any one time period. They look fresh always or whatever. Even when people try to remix them by putting on modern clothing, the designs still look good. And that's something that all artists should probably strive for, honestly. But anyways, I'm out of here. Thank you for joining me for this. See you next boss fight. Take care.